Here, as we remember the man and the movement that transformed really the soul of America, it's really important that we honor the fullness of Dr. King's dream. So while we remember Dr. King's birthday this month, we also are reminded that it was 50 years ago, on April 4th, that he lost his life to an assassin's bullet. Dr. King was a crusader for civil rights, voting rights, and peace, but he was also a warrior for economic justice and ending poverty. In fact, one of Dr. King's most memorable speeches, of course, I've been to the mountaintop. It was given in Memphis, Tennessee, at a time when Dr. King was determined to transform the movement into an intersectional economic justice revolution. A few months before his death, 2 young African-American workers were crushed to death by a faulty truck in Memphis. The American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME, union members went on strike, and Dr. King was right there with them, lending his support. In a speech to the sanitation workers on strike, Dr. King explained why he was there. He said, "Our struggle is for genuine equality, which means economic equality." Dr. King said that to thousands gathered at Mason Temple. He said, "For we know that it is not enough to integrate lunch counters. What does it profit a man to be able to eat at an integrated lunch counter if he doesn't have enough money to buy a hamburger?" Dr. King had come to signal the dawn of a new era in the struggle. He was there to stand with workers who were sick and tired of low wages, unsafe working conditions, and the city's refusal to recognize their union. He was there because he believed that labor rights, civil rights, and human rights are one and the same. He was there because he understood the simple truth that there can be no racial justice without economic justice. Tragically, while fighting to secure the American dream for all Americans, Dr. King was assassinated on April 4th, 1968. Now, that was a day that changed my life. Congresswoman Jackson Lee mentioned where she was. We all remember that moment. I was living in San Jose, California, and was commuting to San Francisco, about an hour away, by train. I returned that evening. My car was parked in the train's parking lot. I got off the train, turned on the radio, and the news came through that Dr. King had been killed. Well, I sat in my car for I don't know how long, and I cried. I was shocked like everyone, saddened and angry. But I was also motivated to fight for the dream that Dr. King envisioned. My job, I quit my job. At that moment, I knew that I had to do something. So I became involved, John, as a community worker with Bobby Seale and the Black Panther Party. But it was Dr. King's assassination that catapulted me into the movement. And I was determined to prove that even though the assassin killed the dreamer, he could not kill the dream. Right now in this country, the work of Dr. King went to Memphis to achieve. That work remains unfinished, which is what we intend to complete. 47 million Americans remain locked in poverty. Discrimination and institutional racism continue to hold livable wages hostage. And the economic wealth divide, it grows deeper every day in urban and in rural communities. Now, I represent the 13th Congressional District of California, a great district where there's an explosion of wealth in the Bay Area, which has recently experienced also a spike in median household income. It's a hub of innovation and creativity, yet in many ways it's a tale of two cities. Black households in my district have been locked out of this explosion of wealth. According to the Census Bureau, the median income in the Bay Area jumped by 9%, while the median income for black households inched up just 2%. And it's not just wealth inequality. 23% of black households are poor, and 43% of black children in my district are considered poor in Oakland. And these numbers have remained stagnant year after year after year. This is unacceptable. Not just my district that experiences this wealth divide. Recent studies shown that if trends persist, median black household wealth could hit 0 by 2053. So this alarming possibility makes one thing clear. The work to achieve Dr. King's dream must continue, and members of the Congressional Black Caucus tirelessly continues the work both inside this Congress and in our communities, because there is still much that we must overcome. As the conscience of the Congress, the Congressional Black Caucus fights every day to dismantle barriers that prevent low-income people, poor people, and people of color from having a fair shot at the American dream. Dr. King's legacy can be found in our efforts to give communities of color, struggling families, women, a fair shot at improving their basic living standards. There are many bills, Congressman Bobby Scott's bill to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, Congresswoman Alma Adams closing the Meal Gap Act. There are many bills that many members of the Congressional Black Caucus really are championing every single day to ensure that Dr. King's life and his death will be remembered, and that his death will not overshadow his life, and that his legacy of fighting, as Dr. King said, to make the promises of democracy real will live on for generations to come. Thank you, and I